What's up, 12th man, and all you viewers out there? This is kind of a weird Norblog today, because kind of struggling, to be honest with you, about some recent things that have happened. And so the subject is about faith and football. Now, don't freak out or anything. I'm not going to get all preachy and religious on you or anything like that, but really kind of the opposite, because it's just, there are times when sometimes you start to question things that you believe, and the more you think about it, the more it actually kind of gives you less answers and just raises more questions. So, just, you guys know what I'm talking about. I'll try to set you up here. So I'll get to the tie-in to where this is going, but as a little bit of background, I'm technically Catholic, but you might call me more of a casual fan, if there's such a thing, when it comes to religion. You know, I grew up, I didn't really go to church that regularly growing up, but when I got married, my wife's Catholic, so I ended up becoming Catholic and been that since. And so, we go to church every once in a while, not as regular as we probably should, but it's been more recently because my oldest daughter, she's preparing for her first communion, and been going a little more regularly for that. And as a result, because I'm trying to teach her, the meaning behind the scriptures that they talk about, it's also made me have to pay attention more, because I got to ask her questions to see if she's listening. And the more you listen, the more you actually start to really soak in, what you're supposed to be, hearing and digesting it, as opposed to when maybe your mind kind of just tunes out, you kind of go through the motions, right? Anyway, so I've been paying a little bit more attention, and, so some things have happened that, have kind of questioned, raised some questions for me. And the problem with me is I tend to overanalyze things. I analyze things a lot from different angles, and now I'm analyzing even more. And there's just some things that just don't make a lot of sense. And, you can't really have a belief like that and yet only believe part of it. You're supposed to it's sort of all or nothing. Just sort of pick and choose the things that sort of, I like that. Well, I don't really buy into that. But so, how does this tie into football? Well, looking back on this season, it's been a great run to be Super Bowl champions. And all of us Seahawk fans are like, yay, greatest thing ever. And for those of the religious ones out there, are probably saying, yes, thank you, God, we're blessed, and our prayers, were answered, and thank you, it's great. And but then what about the Denver Bronco fans? What about any other team's fans? Because obviously there's only one team that wins out of 32. So what about all the fans who, had been praying and hoping for their team through the whole season? I mean, we all kind of did on our own. Prayed for it, and then when you win, you feel like your prayers are answered. And when your team doesn't, you feel like, you were let down, and your prayers weren't answered. So if obviously it's just a game, but people pray about it. You see the players out in the field praying after a game. So there's a faith aspect to it. That isn't just that it's just a game. There's more to it. People, do put their faith into it. And what does that mean then for the other teams whose fans don't get rewarded, whose prayers don't get answered? I mean, are Broncos fans being punished? Are the Broncos being punished because of something? Is there a reason why they weren't chosen to win versus the Seahawks? Or is God just a Seahawk fan? Silly thing to even think, but because if he was, we'd win every year. So he's obviously not just a Seahawk fan. It's just, but you try to make sense of all these things, because you when it comes to, you know, prayers, because people always say that, you know, praying for you, or we're praying for this to happen. And, you know, so did we win because the Seahawks had more people praying for them to win? You know, like a vote, you know, hey, we won the majority vote. We had more prayers than you guys. We won. You know, so, I mean, these are just part of the things you try to analyze and make sense of. And, you know, maybe these worldly concepts that we try to analyze with just don't apply. And so it's hard to try to make sense in a, you know, world that we live in to one that's, you know, maybe something beyond that. But, you know, people say when things are going great in their life, people on Facebook, you know, after a win, after something good, everyone says, I'm blessed. You know, you get 100 Facebook birthday messages. I'm so blessed to have so many people, you know, wishing good things for me. But so when something bad happens, your team loses, or, you know, you just have a terrible time, do you still say I'm blessed? People usually just don't say anything. They're just upset about it. You know, but shouldn't they still be feeling blessed? I mean, it's not just about being blessed when good things happen, right? But I don't remember a lot of Denver Bronco fans saying, yeah, we lost the Super Bowl, but I'm still blessed. You know, people don't work that way. I mean, when you lose, what do? You know, you rationalize. You're saying, well, it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't God's plan. It wasn't God's will. You know, it's got something else planned for us down the line. You know, and we kind of accept that. You know, we accept the win and say He answered our prayers, and when we lose, we just say, oh, well, it wasn't His plan. It wasn't meant to be. But again, you just rationalize it. But it really doesn't make sense, though, when you think about how the ending turns out. You know, it's like you don't question it. You're just supposed to accept it, good or bad, whether it went your way or not. If it went your way, it's great. You be thankful for it. If you didn't get it, you're supposed to still say, well, that's just how it was meant to be. Like there's no accountability. Like Seattle weatherman, you know. How many times they tell us, you know, hey, it's going to be sunny tomorrow, and then it rains, but they don't get fired because they told the wrong, you know, weather forecast. We just kind of curse them out and say, oh, that sucker messed up again. I didn't have the right stuff. And then we just go about it, accept it, and do it again, you know. But, so, all right, so how does this translate? And where am I getting at with this? Why is this such a big thing? Well, a lot of things in life, you know, you can compare to football. And there's something that's happened in our lives recently that has had a pretty strong effect on us in the last few days. Someone who's very close to us has recently been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and maybe more. It might have spread beyond that. And this person's a young person, barely in their 30s, married not too long ago, a few years ago, just had a first baby born not even a year ago. And it's been shocking, to say the least. No one saw this coming, you know. And, you know, shaking up my faith to a certain degree. You know, when people go through a hard time, or, you know, whenever there's a tragic situation, you know, people, it's almost a cliched thing to say, our thoughts and prayers are with you, or thoughts or prayers are with you and the victims, or whatever. And it's such a cliched thing now. You hear it all the time. It almost kind of doesn't mean anything. But so what does it really mean? I mean, how does it, if it's just words, then they're kind of meaningless. So you got to believe that it means something more than that. Well, what does it mean? You know, if someone's prayers are with you, well, how does that change things? I mean, I go back to the football analogy. If one team has more people praying for it than the other, does that give them an advantage? You know, because people are all, it almost seems like in times of trouble, people always want more prayers or want to offer more prayers. You know, like there's a comfort thing. We're praying. So it would seem to me that then you should, and is the theme there that when you're in trouble or need help, you should lobby for as many prayers as possible, like you're lobbying for votes, because the more prayers you get, the better off things are going to turn out. I mean, if President Obama goes on national TV and he says, "Oh, let's, you know, I ask everyone to, say a prayer for these victims or for these people," and does he then sway the results because he's on national TV and everybody knows the president and everybody's listening, and so millions of people now are now praying for this particular person or victim or whatever the circumstance may be? And so that's great if you're friends with President Obama or happen to be newsworthy enough to be included in that. But if you're a relatively unknown person who nobody would talk about and you only know a few people, a few friends, does that mean you have no shot because no one's praying for you except maybe a handful of people? And that doesn't seem fair, does it? I mean, so it can't be a numbers thing. Yet prayers are looked at almost like a number beneficial type of thing. The larger the numbers, the more it seems to bring comfort that there's more people praying. I always had a hard time with that. I've never understood it. Yet we still do it. I still do it. I say it too. I'm praying for you. And there's a part of me that wonders, what good is it doing? My one prayer, my one vote. It's like a vote. It's like I'm expressing my hope to God for a good outcome for you. And it's like a vote. It is like a vote. Like I'm voting for you, President, whoever you are, to win the election so that good things turn out. And if I don't vote for you, one less chance you're going to make it. So one less prayer, one less chance that person's going to make it. But that doesn't hardly seem fair now, does it? There's, a lot of you have heard about the mudslide victims, and also here in Washington. It's been a couple weeks now, and it's hard to grasp your head around what's happened up there. And I'm not connected to it personally. Don't know people who were involved in that, but 33 people, I think now, lives have been claimed, and the victims' ages ranged from 69 years old down to a 2-year-old. In other words, they're completely average people, just like anyone, like any neighborhood. Could have been any neighborhood. Could have been my neighborhood. So why them? Why were they chosen to be the victims of the mudslide that day? Why not somebody else? Why not us? Could have been our neighborhood. So going back to this person that we know, it just doesn't seem fair. This person is young, good job, responsible, goes to church regularly, very strong faith, young baby. This child doesn't even have any memories, long-term memories yet. That's not going to happen until like age 4 or 5, right? And I don't know what's going to happen. We're all hoping that things will work out. It's not a good outlook at this point, but it just seems wrong. That why is this person chosen to have this happen to potentially, having this person's rest of their life cut short, taken away. I mean, it's this, again, people will rationalize, well, it's God's will, part of his plan. I mean, what kind of plan, what kind of plan involves removing a person, a good person from this earth who's a responsible, spouse, responsible parent? What kind of plan, how does that plan do any better for this world? And then when people pass away, a lot of times, again, we rationalize too, well, they're in a better place now. And I do believe that. I want to believe that when we all pass on, that there's something, a better place, call it heaven or whatever you want to call it, that we get to, be reunited with people we haven't seen in a long time, and that's a happier place than where we are. So I want to believe that. I mean, I think down in my heart I do believe it. Sometimes I think it's sort of people's way of, they want to believe it because they just want to believe that this is the end, there's nothing else, because it kind of sucks to think that lights out, But that said, knowing and believing that the person's in a better place, puts you at peace to believe that's what happens to that person. But it still sucks for the people who are still here. Because then you've been robbed of that person's presence, that person's company, and the times that you get to spend, for many, many years or whatever. Just like, a child, like that 2-year-old child was killed in the mudslide. What did that kid do? Certainly a 2-year-old doesn't deserve anything. They haven't done anything. They're not capable of doing anything to be deserving of that. I've never heard a good rationale for when children or infants are killed because they are truly innocent in this world, as far as their actions are concerned, and yet how can anyone rationalize why they go? Well, it's the same thing, a child being taken too soon from their parents. It's just terrible when an infant's parent is taken away too soon too. And yet even when I say it's not fair that this person, should suffer, why is this person suffering this fate? That implies that it would be better if it was somebody else, somebody more deserving. And that's not right either. Then you're starting to sort of judge, oh, well, that person didn't deserve it. Maybe that guy deserved it. He's a jerk, But that's not how it works. Mudslides don't just kill jerks on this world. Pricks aren't the ones who just get cancer. I don't know, maybe there's not even any rhyme or reason to God's plan. What if things are just random, more random than we'd like to believe? Maybe the Seahawks won, and the Oso victims had to suffer because God just, for lack of a better religious analogy, rolled the dice that day. And that's how it came up. But that sucks too if you believe that, because that would completely undermine everything that religion is supposed to be about, right? I mean, it's all supposed to be you do this and do that and follow this and that, and then you'll get this result. So, what to do? I mean, the only thing I can think of doing is what I have control over, and that is to be there for the person, talk to them, talk to the family, let them know how I feel, offer to do whatever I can to help. And you know what? I will probably pray anyway, because it's all I can do. Sometimes I wish I had blind faith. There are people I know who are very religious and they're just so blinders on, or politically blinders on, or Seahawk fans, blinders on. We are going to win, I don't care, Super Bowl, repeat every year, there's nothing wrong with this team. I'm the greatest cheerleader for this team, but I can see with my own eyes, what happens out there, what's the strengths and weaknesses, what's a good call, bad call, good, bad. But sometimes I think I analyze too much. I don't know. I guess if nothing else, this is a wake-up call. There's a wake-up call, and I guess to pass along this wake-up call to you guys is, you really never know, how much time you have left. And you really do have to, one, do what you can to be proactive in getting yourself checked out, going to the doctor and screening whatever you can to make sure you're, not missing anything that you might be able to prevent early on. So don't neglect those basic things. You got to do it. Nothing worse than finding out you could have, stopped something if you'd only knew 2 years earlier or something. I mean, that's the real tragedy to this kind of news. But, since you don't really know how much time you ever have left, and with the people you have left, whether it's your time or that other person's time, you really gotta, try to make the most of it. I mean, it's kind of sentimental and a little corny to, they say, oh, you should always hug those you love and tell them you love them. I mean, you can't spend the whole afternoon just hugging and loving all day. I mean, tonight I really. Embraced my kids a little extra squeeze. Told them, I really did tell them that I loved them before I put them down to bed, because I was thinking about all this stuff. And I was happy I could do that. But, at the same time, I mean, earlier in the day, they're fighting and stuff like that. You still got to discipline them. And so it doesn't mean you're just like, forget ever being a mean guy. You just have to be hugs and kisses constantly. I mean, life still goes on. You still got hard, tough love at times. And you still got to work. You still got to do things. You can't just live your bucket list constantly, day by day. You got to save for that potential future in case you don't kick the bucket and last till you're 90 years old. But you do have to try to make the most that you can, balancing practicalities of long-term planning with making the most of the moment. So, sorry for the heaviness tonight, guys. I'm not really looking for answers. I don't think anyone could tell me something that's just going to suddenly turn a light bulb on and clear the air for me. Sometimes I hear people who talk, they they say they pray at night, and they have a conversation with God, and they actually get answers. I mean, a little literal conversation, you know. And I can't say I've actually had like a two-way conversation, you know. I think I've had moments where I go, wow, I think somebody was looking over my shoulder, protecting me that day, because I could have seriously been messed up. So, like a guardian angel was watching over me, or God decided not to let me die that day, driving, whatever. I've definitely had my share of close calls, and I consider myself lucky to still be around. But I don't know. Promise next blog will be not so heavy. Get back to some Seahawks and the good old stuff, but just had to get this out. So if you guys want to chime in on this, whatever, you may have thoughts on it. You may just think Norb's just tripping today, which maybe I am. But we all have these days once in a while. So feel free to throw your thoughts out there, whatever they might be. Guess that light going out is probably a signal I need to wrap this up. I'm still excited about the Seahawks. Mariners are exciting, and as I promised to one man on mission user out there, I'm rooting for the Sounders, even though I don't really care for soccer that much. I'm just hoping everything for Seattle goes well. So far it's a good place to be, Seattle sports-wise. And I'll just say this for the record. If I knew that I was going to be dying sometime soon, one of the things outside of immediate family issues would be, or family aspects, would be knowing that I would no longer be able to watch Seahawk games. Would be one of the big things I would be very sad about. So that's how big a fan I am. I'd be up there with things I would be most disappointed in finding I was going to die, not to be able to go any more Seahawk games. So I'm relishing the fact that I still can, and that I've got a whole season to look forward to, and I lived this long to see them win Super Bowl. Pretty cool. All right. Talk to you later. Go Hawks.